Good morning everyone, welcome to our next Lift Devotional. I'm Angela. It's great to have you with me this morning. Let's grab a coffee and let's get into God's Word together. We know that key messages are important. I work in the NHS and I manage the team that are responsible for our communications and engagement, and we use key messages all the time. To help with this, we've got, it just helps with our general communication that we have a key message that we put out into the organisation, and it helps people connect with that message and remember it. We've seen during this COVID-19 pandemic how the government's used key messages to try to get people to comply with the stringent lockdown restrictions that we've all been experiencing over the last few weeks. And it's worked really well. On the whole, people have really understood what they need to do. And that stay-at-home message, protect the NHS and save lives, has really resonated with everyone. The key message though has changed over the last few days, hasn't it? And that stay-at-home has changed to stay alert. And this change has been a bit controversial, you'd say. And we've seen the four nations that make up the UK it's caused us to split and go in a different direction. And there's been different messages that have been put out. Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland have retained the stay-at-home message, but us in England, we've moved to this new slogan. So I think this example highlights how powerful successful communication is and can be, and when we change it, that it can cause issues, it can cause confusion, as we've seen throughout the nation around coronavirus pandemic. So I suppose it's fair to say any change to the government's messaging would have been difficult, as stay at home is crystal clear and understandable for everybody. So in thinking about key messages, it prompted me to think about probably the most important message we can ever hear or encounter, and it was one that Jesus delivered himself during his Sermon on the Mount. This key message is one that really speaks to us as we find ourselves in this time of great uncertainty and living through a global pandemic that threatens the very core of our way of life. I'm sure as I'm speaking to you this morning, many of you will be able to recall a time over the past few weeks when you've probably felt really worried about the consequences of the virus. You may have worried about your own health, maybe the health of a loved one. You may have worried about other issues related to lockdown, maybe isolation, or the stress of not seeing your family or your friends. Or there may have been employment or financial worries that have caused you to have great anxiety. Worrying is understandable at this time, and as we've seen, it can have serious and tragic consequences for some. There are stories of great sadness. There have also been stories of great survival, and these provide hope and inspiration. I heard a story on the news this week of a man named the Great Survivor. This man survived against all odds. He contracted the coronavirus and subsequently had double pneumonia, 2 strokes and heart failure. That's so tragic and amazing. And you would imagine that this story would end with great sadness and tragedy and death. But fortunately, the man survived and was able to walk out of hospital unaided this week. How fantastic is that? Another national newspaper reported that members of the public don't want the lockdown eased. As the public are naturally worried about easing the lockdown, they think that the rate of infection will increase, and that will be a further risk to human life. This is interesting, isn't it? 8 weeks into the lockdown, the general public seem to support the measures, and most are prepared to continue if it means controlling the virus and saving lives. That key message that we talked about earlier, right at the start of this talk, has really got through to the public and resonated. As you sit listening to this talk, maybe you feel worried or anxious. It's a difficult time for us all, and it can be more difficult by the isolation and separation from our friends and our loved ones. But I want this morning to encourage you by a powerful message that we find in the Bible. We read about it in Matthew chapter 6 verse 25, and it says these words, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than our clothes?" The Message Bible puts it like this: if you decide for God, living a life of God worship, it follows that you don't fuss about what's on the table at meal times or whether the clothes in your closet are in fashion. There is far more to your life than the food you put in your stomach, more to your outer appearance than the clothes you hang on your body. What powerful words are those, and how relevant to us at the moment. This is a fantastic key message delivered by Jesus himself in these verses to us. Do not worry. Isn't that amazing? Jesus, the Son of God, telling us not to worry. This key message far exceeds any message or strapline that the government could create or put out during this coronavirus. God himself loves and cares for us. He knows everything about us. He tells us without a shadow of a doubt not to worry. In this verse, Jesus speaks about the very basics of life, the necessities that we can't really live without. He talks about food, drink, clothes. Someone said that the 4 key elements that are necessary to life are food, water, sleep and oxygen. These 4 key elements are vital to our survival. We see 2 of these elements appearing in Jesus' key message, i.e. food and drink. Jesus tells not even to worry about these things because he will take care of us. He will make sure we have everything we need. Jesus continues to say in verse 33 and 34 of the same chapter, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." Therefore, the key message from God in these verses is don't worry. Seek first God's kingdom and his righteousness. In other words, seek after God, whatever circumstances you find yourself in, and God will give you everything you need. Wow, what an amazing message that is delivered by Jesus right directly to us. And you know, I for one can say that I have tested this out in my own life and found this to be absolutely true. Seek God first and everything else you need will be added. Remember that truth, because if you remember nothing else about what I've said, remember that truth this morning. I hope you were able to join us for our digital church service last Sunday morning. It was a wonderful service, and I was really blessed by Psalm 139 that was read by Leah. The psalm, which was written by David, starts with these words: "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me." We see here that God knows us completely and intimately. This psalm reminds us of the omniscience of God. He knows our actions. When we sit and when we stand up, he knows what we are thinking. He perceives our thoughts. He knows what we are going to say even before we say it. Before a word is on my tongue, Lord, you know it completely. It's truly amazing to realise that God knows us. I don't think anyone else, even our nearest and dearest, knows us as well as this. God sees our concerns, He sees our anxieties. He knows what we are worried about, and God responds to this, as we see in verse 5 of the psalm, which says, "You place your hand of blessing on my head." God says He is with us. He is behind us, and He is before us, and He puts His hands of blessing on our heads. I love that final part of the psalm which says this: "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and my anxious thoughts." David tells us he is ready to open up his life to God. He wants God even to know his very heart, which is the centre of our being, and also to know his anxious thoughts. What an amazing place to get to in our relationship with God. I pray we will seek to reach that place of openness with God. Are you ready to get to that place with God, to open up? As we have said, our current situation is difficult and may at times cause us to worry. But remember, listen to God's key message for your life at this time. God is with us, our loving Father, and He's ready to listen to our anxious thoughts. As we've spent a few short moments this morning reminding ourselves of the amazing truth found in God's Word, I am sure you agree. We have found great encouragement that all we will ever need is found in God. All we need is to listen to His key message, stop worrying, and fervently seek after God and His righteousness, and everything else will be provided. I hope this has blessed you as it has blessed me as I've prepared it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.